Hello, gentlemen. My name is Will Gasper, Hospice of Michigan Grief Support Counselor, and in conjunction with Wes Lawton from the West Bloomfield office, I want to welcome you to our latest recap of Men Overcoming Loss that we actually had on Tuesday, November 17th. So our main theme was the holidays and grieving and coping through the holidays. And I want to congratulate you and welcome you for the courage and the strength that it takes to admit that you need help. And one of the first things that we heard about on Tuesday night was the question, am I going crazy? I seem to be getting stuck and not getting better, and I'm worried about that. Well, gentlemen, this gentleman that told us that was not going crazy. It's part of the normal process of seeming to be stuck, but because he attended the meeting on Tuesday, because you are viewing this video, you are not crazy. You are on the path of the grief journey, and it's not an easy one, as we all know. And you may be stuck, but stuck momentarily, because you are here and you will continue to grow and to continue to heal. And I just wanted to encourage you about that. The next thought was, well, I should be feeling like everybody else. Well, okay, who do you define as everybody else? Everybody else has lost a spouse, everybody else that's lost a parent or a child, or everybody else that's out Christmas shopping and having their holiday music on their radios or Pandora or the Sirius radio. Tell me why you should feel like everyone else, because everybody else is not you. You have experienced something that very few people are prepared to deal with. Even in a long-term illness, that folks that lose their loved ones are often not prepared for the actual death, the actual separation from the physical relationship that you had with that person. So keep in mind, your grief is like fingerprints. No two fingerprints are the same. No two people's grief experience is the same. And so while it seems like it's not fair that everyone else doesn't seem to have a care in the world, they're laughing, they're holding hands, they're singing along to the music, they're decorating their houses, the reality is that this is a temporary state that you're in. And as you go through the journey, you will find out strength that you thought you never had. No one understands me is another thing that we heard. And I would have to say that there are people that don't understand. How can they understand? They possibly didn't have or don't have a loss as recent as you have had, or they didn't love the person they lost as much as you loved your spouse or your mom, your dad, your son, your daughter. So how can they understand? But we want them to understand, don't we? We want them to listen. We want them to not judge us. They want us to validate what we're going through. And that's why I am honored, and I know Wes is as well, to have you here among us, Hospice of Michigan professionals, and of course other professionals in other organizations that have been trained to work with grief and people that are going through this grief journey. Another thought that we have heard is, I will never feel better. I should be over this by now. Well, everybody's journey is different. Everybody's timetable is different. And Ron Grease, our esteemed 22-year veteran volunteer who wrote a book, From Death to Life, uses the word someday. Someday I'll feel better. Someday I'll be over this. He doesn't put a date. He doesn't put a timeline. And the last thing we heard among the groups that we had on Tuesday night was, I'm a burden. I'm a burden to my family. I'm a burden to my neighbors. I'm a burden to folks at my church. They don't want to hear me tell sad tales, sad sacks, as he called himself. Well, that's only because folks don't know what to say to help you. They don't know that it's okay just to listen. You're never a burden to professionals like Wes and myself, and to volunteers like Matt Boylett and Ron Grease and David Keller. Nor are you a burden to most ministers, priests, or rabbis. That is our calling, gentlemen, to work with all of you, each of you, in a group, separately, to help you navigate these uncharted waters in our lives. Why is grief so difficult during the holidays? Well, a lot of people think that anticipation and worry about what's going to happen, where you're going to be, what you're going to be thinking, what you're going to be doing, is actually wasted energy. Energy that best be applied writing things down and actually planning your events and putting down on paper what you can agree to and what you don't have to agree to, depending on where you're at in your grief journey, okay? And another thing that is so hard, why it's so hard in these holidays, is the grief triggers that happen, whether it's a song, a movie, shopping, all these things, decorating. When you see other things happening around you, or hear a certain song, or even feeling a separate fabric that may have been brought out just for the holidays, and sadness overcomes you, that's okay. These grief triggers are temporary, and they'll subside as the time goes on, as you heal. Another huge thing is why it's so hard is that we lost that physical relationship, the presence of our loved one. Keep in mind that if it's been 10, 15, 20, 30, 60 years together, that physical relationship is no longer there. And the toughest task to begin your grief journey is to accept that person is no longer going to be there to be seen in the physical sense. But it doesn't have to stop there. It can be a spiritual love affair, a spiritual relationship that keeps us going. Stress, whether self-induced or from external forces like neighbors, family, friends, church, friends, work parties, stress can be very detrimental to our grief journey, and especially during this COVID pandemic. The isolation, the loneliness, that's tough. That is very, very tough. But think about ways around it. Think about unconventional ways to connect to people, whether that's cards, letters, email, texting, or what you're doing now, going online, doing a virtual face-to-face type of thing. Just being able to reach out to folks to help you cope day by day, sometimes hour by hour. And seeking support, safe, encouraging support from trained professionals, ministers, rabbis, priests, safe and encouraging, understanding friends. Seeking support, even going online and looking at compassionatefriends.com or griefshare.com. They offer groups for compassionate friends covering all sorts of losses and situations. Different times of the day, different days of the week. So definitely check that out. Talking about it. We often don't want to burden others with our grief, but we have found as professionals that talking about it, talking about that person we loved and we lost, is great therapy. Even crying and sobbing during those talks. That's okay. Because folks that are trained and are safe and are validating understand what you're going through. They'll give you that safe space to grieve. Avoiding stress. Again, it's up to you about how you would like to approach the holidays. And if things are that are on your list of things to do will bring you stress, cross them off this year. Say no to some of those invitations. Really, it's okay. No is a complete sentence. And accept your limitations. By all means, know that you're not able to handle certain events, certain conversations, certain places at this time. But you will. You'll heal. Just by showing up today, you are working on your grief. And if you continue, you'll be okay. You will heal. You'll be different. You may realize that you have more strength than you ever thought you had. But accepting those limitations for now is a good thing. Next month, December 15th at 6 p.m., we'll be back again, and we're going to cover and continue this discussion about creating new rituals, maintaining good company, being gentle with yourself, finding hope, and finding comfort in your faith. So for Wes Lawton and I, and our volunteers, Matt Ballette and Ron Grease, thank you, gentlemen. Be gentle with yourself, and check out HOM.org so that you can keep apprised of what's going on with us and our groups, our grief groups. Take care.